So, yeah, on to video number 2 now. So I'm just talking about the effects of COVID and OCD, and contamination OCD and germ phobia. Match made in hell. Yeah, what I was saying is I don't know what's going to happen moving forward with this whole pandemic because no one seems to know. I Google it, when will the pandemic end? No one can give an answer. And my OCD and autism does not like that because I like to have certainty. I like to know exactly what's going to happen. So that isn't very good for me. And I have to accept uncertainty, which is hard. And the other thing, as I said before, is I don't know what's happening with the whole vaccination programme, because it's known scientifically that immunity runs out after around 6 months. I don't know whether or not the third dose will make the timescale longer than that, because they say that after the third dose, the immunity is improved. But obviously now we've got this variant with Omicron that changes the picture. That might have been a case with the Delta, but now as it keeps on changing, new variants keep on coming along, and immunity will wane eventually. And if this disease doesn't go anywhere, I'm going to be like, so where does that leave me then? Someone who's extremely worried about disease. If a vaccine is available, I want it every 6 months. And if they're not going to give it to me, then I'll basically be housebound forever. And that is not a fun prospect. So like I say, I am hoping that they do make allowances for people who are basically highly vulnerable, who have mental illnesses and mental health problems and severe disabilities. They might not be physical in nature, like physically I might be able to fight COVID, obviously I don't want to test that, but I should be able to because I'm relatively young and physically healthy, but it's the effect it has mentally, and also there's always the risk of long COVID, and if you've got mental problems, you don't want an extra disability on top. There's just too many risks involved, and mental health is a risk, and mental affects physical, and if you're constantly having panic attacks because you're sick and you can't see anyone, that's obviously could potentially worsen the outcome of a disease as well, and make you more vulnerable, because it's not good for the body to be in a state of stress like that when you're ill. And like I say, I know for a fact that that's what will be happening. I'll be having, because I have panic attacks even though I have a slight cold, so you know what I mean. So I just can't deal with being sick. People are always like, oh, no one likes being ill. That's what they always say, because that's so trivialising of people who have actually really severe health anxiety and OCD. It is so trivialising because, yeah, sure, no one likes being ill, but like the difference is, I think if someone who doesn't have contamination OCD or health anxiety, the fact is they're just better equipped at dealing with it. So to an extent, my fear of getting ill is actually not completely illogical, because there are consequences for me mentally when I do get ill, and that's because of my neurological disability, because it can't deal with change. So obviously my fears are actually quite logically founded. They're not completely illogical, because there are real repercussions for me on a mental level when I get ill, and that's talking about even just mild illnesses like getting a cold. And I have a really low pain threshold as well. I'm not good at dealing with pain. Some pains I can deal with better than others, but there are certain types. I'm particularly, anything that kind of changes like for example, even today, I'm feeling rather tired. I can't even go out. Even when my normal walk is too much for me, just because I'm feeling a bit tired, that's what I mean. So, and that's not even that much. I'm only slightly tired because of the vaccine and I still can't go out. So that's what I'm saying, and that's not even a big deal. Like, most people would still be going out if they're just slightly tired, and if I have a slight sore throat or whatever, I basically stay in bed. And most people would still be able to go out. So, you can imagine if I got COVID, it would be good. I'm just not good at dealing with pain, okay? I think the reason for that is because I'm already dealing with a lot of anxiety at the best of times, when I'm feeling good, when you're like below par, that obviously raises your stress levels, and then if you're already like very anxious, it goes like right up like that. Whereas normal people are operating at a more relaxed state, so when they get ill, they feel stressed, but not as stressed as if you're already stressed, if that makes sense. so they can deal with it better. Most people can anyway, unless they've got other issues. So I do feel they should, personally, I feel that they should include people with severe disabilities, including autism and OCD, in the at-risk for vaccination programme, like they do with learning disability, because they included people with learning disability. At first it was people with very severe learning disabilities, and that's because people with severe learning disabilities tend to have, are more likely to have health problems. They're more likely to have things that compromise their health, obviously makes them more at risk of actually dying from COVID, and that was their main priority, which I can understand, and it should be the case. But then they included all people with learning disabilities, which included those with very mild learning disabilities who don't have any underlying health problems, but just because they had a mild learning disability, they were included. And it didn't really make sense then that they would exclude autistic people of a similar functioning level just because of their IQ. That didn't make sense at all. If they're going to include all people with learning disability, regardless of their physical health, then they should also include autistic people, and they should include people with severe OCD and other mental problems like bipolar and things like that. I know that in New Zealand they have included people with severe mental health problems in their vaccination, as I heard about it on Twitter, someone was saying that they're all included, as well as people with learning disabilities. So I don't understand why they didn't do that in this country. I guess it's all economics, but they've got enough vaccines, so they should have been able to. It should have been they should have come under learning disability, which I think was good, because they had it in groups, didn't they? Starting with the elderly, then those with physical, and then learning disabilities, and it should have been that, but ahead of the general population. That's what I think anyway. So I am hoping that they do include that people with severe impediments where they really need the vaccine in order to live are given it routinely, if that's what they're going to do. If they're not going to include the whole population, they should at least include people who, people with autism, and maybe not all people with autism, because obviously I know some people with autism who don't have any issues like this, but discretionary, at least those who are really severely disabled. I am now on the disabled register at the GP. My dad got me on there, even though I don't have a learning disability, because I was put on there on a discretionary basis because my disability is as severe as someone with a mild learning disability, at least on a functional level, and also because of my IQ split. Although I am really able, highly verbal, on a non-verbal level I'm really impaired. So for GP, considering I am that, and obviously because I can't deal with being ill and stuff and all my other issues, they did put me on it on a discretionary level, so I should be eligible anyway now. Anyway, do let me know what you think anyway about this. I'll be interested to know, and also your perspective on the general treatment of people with disabilities and the pandemic. Because I'll be interested to know, because I do feel that it's not been given enough coverage, the effect of the pandemic on people with mental problems, because they focus a lot on isolation and lockdown and making people depressed and stuff, but they don't seem to be focusing on people who actually, on the other side of the coin, people who it's not making them depressed so much, it's more actually that they're in self-imposed lockdown. I've been in the lockdown that most people only had to endure for a couple of months, self-imposed because of my OCD, coming up to 2 years now. Most people, when I tell people that, they literally they can't believe it. I don't think they can comprehend what that means, because I guess for people without mental problems that is literally incomprehensible. For me, it's an exaggeration of how I was already living. So obviously before COVID I was going out and I was seeing people, but I did have a period of lockdown. During the 2009 pandemic, the swine flu one, when my OCD got really bad, I basically didn't go out for quite a number of months. Not properly go out. Thankfully not as long as this one, and I did resolve it and I did overcome it. And obviously the swine flu one wasn't as bad as this one, and once the evidence came out that it wasn't bad, I started going out again and overcame it. But it was almost like a kind of this in microcosm almost. So, but anyway, do let me know what you think, and thank you for watching.